Ding Liren and Ian Nepomniachtchi are going to face each other from April 7th to May 1st in the World Chess Championship 2023. It's just a few days away before the first round starts, April 7th. Now, the last time they played against each other was in the candidates. In the whole of year 2022, they have played only 3 games against each other. In 2023, they haven't played any game against each other because the World Championship is approaching. In 2022, there were 3 games, and there was only one win, and that was for Nepo. The other 2 games were draws, and the win came in the first round of the candidates tournament. That was quite a statement because Nepo played absolutely brilliant in that game, and that game would still be fresh in Ding Liren's mind because they faced each other very few times last year, and there was just one victory. That victory or that loss would still be fresh in the mind. So when Ding Liren faces Nepomniachtchi on April 7th for the first round, how will his mindset be? Will there be some memories from the candidates tournament? In the first round, he lost to Nepo, and then in a future round, it was a draw between the two of them. And the one other time they faced each other was in the Athens Masters. So let us have a look at this victory by Nepomniachtchi. It was quite a brilliant game. Let us see. So Ding Liren was white, Nepo was black, first round of the candidates tournament, and here we go. Ding played c4, the English. Nepo played pawn e5, g3, c6, knight to f3, and e4. So that's all preparation, knight d4 and d5. So white is giving black the extra sender, but white will challenge it. So takes, here Nepo played queen takes d5. If pawn takes d5, then white would just go d3 and challenge the sender of blacks. And then bishop g2 position looks fine. The point of queen takes is that we gain a tempo on the knight. So now knight has to move. Or if pawn e3, what would happen? You will probably play something like knight f6 and the game goes on. That is another option. So here Ding played knight c2. Nepo played knight f6, knight c3, queen moves, and bishop g2. So there is pressure on the pawn on e4, knight a6, and castles. Bishop e7, knight e3, and Nepo also castles. Now pawn a3 and rook e8, just giving extra support and developing the rook. Pawn b4. So Ding wants to develop his bishop to b2 and gain some space, prepares b5 as well. Now comes knight g4. Here, what does Ding do? He can exchange if he wants to. That's one option. Knight takes, but bishop would be good there. So Ding played bishop b2 because what's the hurry in deciding this? And knight takes knight, what would be the continuation? Just f into e3 and nice file for the rook. Queen can also get in here or here. The position is fine. So Ding played, sorry, after bishop b2, Nepo played queen h5. This is a very important moment because it just moved 13 and Nepo was already threatening mate, a mate in one in the candidate's first round. Now Ding basically has 2 options, and those 2 options Ding considered for quite a long time, and he played h4. What was the second option? Just knight takes knight. This was the other option. So if he plays knight takes knight, Nepo would take back, and then Ding can play bishop takes pawn because why not, right? But then just bishop f6, putting pressure on e2. If the knight gets taken, then bishop e2 happens. If you move the bishop, still bishop takes knight and bishop e2 happens. So there is pressure. For example, here best move would be f3. But then bishop h3, then rook f2, and position is playable, but the white bishop got locked out of the room and he can't get back. And black's pieces are quite active here. So this was not something Ding was looking for in the first round. So he played h4 to remove the mate threat. But the problem with h4 is it's easy for Nepo to attack now with a move like g5. g5 immediately would be a bit too premature because then just queen c2 or knight into e4 and white's pieces are too active. King is not safe. So first bishop f6 by Nepo. Nepo plays very patiently in this game. Queen c2, putting pressure on the pawn. Knight takes knight, pawn takes, and bishop f5, defending the pawn two times. And you can't really take now. If you take, we can play bishop takes b2, and then when queen moves, we take the free piece. You can't take. So knight a4 was played, asking for an exchange of bishops. Nepo took, Ding took back, and now knight c7, rerouting the knight to d5. Knight c4, rook e6, a rook lift, preparing the rook to get to the king side, and even trying to double it. And also stops knight d6. Okay, so rook d1, and now knight d5. Rook d4, kind of threatening the pawn. Three pieces are attacking it, isn't it? But Nepo just calmly plays h6. A very nice move because he is ignoring this fake threat. You can't really take, because if you take it, then just rook takes. If rook takes, queen g6 comes. And now you can't play f3 because of queen g3. So if you play f3 here, then king would not be safe at all. Queen g3, king h1, and knight f6, rerouting it. And just bishop takes, pawn takes. So even queen h3. So basically knight f6. Knight f6. Let's say white plays some regular move. Queen d3, for example. Then just knight into e4, f into e4, and then queen takes. And the position is too good for black. So that is why that was not really a threat. So Nepo ignored it. And Ding played queen d2. Rook e8. You can see all the pieces are active for Nepo. It's already bad for Ding. And here bishop g4, pressuring the e2 square. Knight a5. So do we take on e2? Then white would also take over here. So you do this. White can play knight takes b7. And yeah, white knight will also get back. So this is okay for white. So after knight a5, Nepo played rook f6, forcing the king back. Right? That's the best way to deal with that threat. So Nepo is firmly in control of everything here because he's got his rook here, he's putting pressure, the queen and bishop battery, all great. Now comes the smooth stage of the game where Nepo just completely crushes Ding. And it's just something to watch. So pawn g5. Once g5 happens, Ding just collapses. The position crumbles. So this is the problem with h4, basically. Now, Ding had to go all in. He took on b7, but then pawn takes. Ding played knight back, and then pawn h3. Nice move by Nepo. Here, if you go back, this pawn h2 is crushing. Pawn h2 is good, and if king g2, there is queen h3 mate. If king f1, what do we have? Let's see, we've got queen f5 at the very least, putting pressure. If knight e4, we can just take it. Stakes. We can't take back because of mate threat. You'll have to play something like f4, and we're already up material. So after h3, Ding played rook takes e4. His point was that you can't really take on g2, right? Because rook takes rook. But guess what Nepo played? Nepo played pawn takes bishop, allowing rook takes rook with the check. But Nepo is a beast when it comes to calculation and dynamic positions because he realized that there is enough play here that the white king is not going to survive this. So what happened was rook takes and just king g7, just calm king g7. Ding is up by an exchange right now, a rook for a bishop. But what is the king going to do? So here Ding played pawn f4 and Nepo played queen h1, king f2, and just queen takes rook. Nepo won back the material and more. So he's right now up by bishop, right? So Ding took on g2. Now it's all winning. Everything is winning. Nepo is up by a piece. But here Nepo finishes things off in style. Can you find out what he played? The best way to finish this, the cleanest finish. The mate, bishop h3, giving up a piece. Here, what happened was king takes. So after bishop h3, Ding resigned. What would have happened was if king takes, queen h1 check would come. And if king g4, pawn h5, and king g5, just queen h3. This would have happened, and the king will get checkmated. It's mate in a few moves. White can only delay things a little bit. So after bishop h3 check, a cool move, Ding Liren resigned, and Nepo won the first round of the candidates. And Nepo went on to win the candidates after 14 rounds. And that is why he is challenging. I mean, he is playing for the World Championship along with Ding. Ding finished second in the candidates, and that's why he's facing Nepo. So what an astounding game, right? That too with black against a top player in the world, Ding Liren. It was just an absolute crush. There was literally no chance for white. After this h4 move, it was all Nepo. This was the moment Ding played h4, and then it was all smooth sailing from here for Nepomniachtchi. So this was their last win between the two of them, and this will still be in their minds when they sit across each other for the first round of the World Championship in Kazakhstan on April 7th. So let's see how the World Championship goes and who comes out on top.